A women's football match is a football match.
Un equip de futbol femení és un equip de futbol.
Un regate de una jugadora es un regate.
Un paradón es un paradón.
Un golazo es un golazo.
Passion for football is passion for football. Football isn't for girls, nor for boys. Football is for footballers.
Out onto the pitch separately as they get ready for kick-off. Let's go through the two teams for you. Starting with the home side, Chelsea. 4 changes from the side that drew 1-1 with Manchester United. And Katrin Berger returns from injury to replace Carly Telford in goal. Hannah Blundell comes into the back line. Erin Cuthbert and newly crowned PFA Player of the Season, Beth England. They both make their first WSL starts of the season. As for Bristol City, 3 changes from their 4-0 defeat to Everton. Flo Allen replaces Faye Bryson at right back. Yana Daniels starts in midfield for Abby Harrison, with Charlie Wellings leading the line. She'll be the first points to try and stop any Chelsea attack. The former Arsenal defender and current Wales manager Jane Ludlow will be calling this one for us. And well, both had a disappointing start to the WSL season, didn't they, Jane, for different reasons?
In the first game, but now obviously they're looking forward to another big challenge ahead today with a team opposite them that are just full of superstars. And it's interesting to see the starting lineup today because, you know, lots of them are fit and Emma has so much choice there. It's really good to see who's going to do well today, and can Bristol get hold on for a point, because anything above that I think would be like Christmas to them.
We'll soon see. Difficult start for Bristol, opening against Everton, Chelsea today, and then after the international break up against Arsenal. And we'll be looking forward to seeing the combination of Sam Kerr and Beth England, which started to bear fruit before the lockdown. And they are starting up top together today. Sam Kerr, once again, slightly guilty of missing a few chances against Manchester United, as she did in the Community Shield. But the striker of her potency, I'm sure they can't keep her down for too long as we await kick-off at Kings Meadow in the bright sunshine. Just a handful of media watching on. And before kick-off, as we have seen with every football match in the country, teams will take the knee before we get the proceedings underway in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. Are they waiting till half? Well, the two teams have come out exceptionally early. I think the referee is waiting for 12:30 to kick us off.
Well, if we do have a little bit of time to chat, I do have to correct you on one thing.
Please do.
You call me a defender. Already? And there are so many of my teammates, if they are watching, ex-teammates, I'll say, who may be watching the game today thinking, oh, I'm not sure if they wanted me in the back line, to be fair.
That's a good start by me, isn't it? Here we go. Great that that's still happening. The message needs to stay in the forefront of people's minds, and Bristol City get us underway. And Jane, we heard from Tanya Oxtoby, didn't we, before kick-off about pressing from the front, and that made you look slightly concerned, I must say.
Well, look, looking at the previous game they've played in the league so far, obviously there's 4 goals against, some areas they need to tighten up on. They did go in quite a low block against Everton for the majority of the game, but listening to the manager at the start, as we're seeing right now, the decision is, as a team, they are going to try and win the ball back fairly high up the pitch. And obviously for everybody watching, the frailties that could come there are the space you're leaving behind your backline at times, or if backline are dropping early, the space you leave between your units. So I'm sure she backs their ability and the organisation that they've put them into, and we'll see now if it works. Can Chelsea break them down by playing through, or are they going to have to go over at times? We'll see. Hopefully we'll have a good game.
Nielda. Another chance here to try and play in Frank Kirby. She did have her shirt pulled by Jana Daniels there, who's done well to stick to her task and win the ball back for Bristol City. They're not going to see a lot of the ball, so they've got to do a lot with it when they have it, and that's good play by Daniels.
Yeah, just going on what the manager, Tanya, mentioned prior to the game, you know, she has a very young squad right now, and they obviously have a philosophy and a way of playing. They want to get the ball on the deck, they want to play. But they are going to come up against some teams, as in Chelsea, and the top level teams, who are going to restrict the amount of time they have on the ball, and potentially today is going to be one of those days. But who knows? Look, that's the beauty about football. You can turn up, Chelsea can have a bad day, Bristol can have a fantastic day. So let's look forward to the next 90 minutes.
And every single pass, every single touch will see Bristol City grow in confidence. They technically proficient. But Tanya Oxtoby has been on the end of some pretty heavy defeats in recent seasons. And Katrin Berger showing a calm head there.
The intriguing thing for me at the start of this game is to see how Chelsea choose to try and break down this Bristol team and how they respond to that higher press against them, because I'd imagine the assumption would have been that Bristol would have come and defended a little deeper against them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who moves where, how they try and move people around to create space.
Leupolz with a wonderful ball out wide towards Blundell, who couldn't control.
It's an exciting partnership up front, so it'll be good to see how they blend today. In England, obviously back in the team today, and Kerr, 2 top quality centre forwards. So if they do get the supply, I'm sure there are potentially going to be a few goals today.
They did start to link up well before the season was curtailed. Sam Kerr still yet to really catch fire in the WSL. Got 1 goal before the lockdown and did score against Manchester United last week, but could have had a few more. Top scorer in the NWSL and the W League, record scorer for them. I think a lot of people just assume that she'd immediately start firing in the WSL.
She has a lot of qualities for me, you know. She's a top level player. The amount of work she puts into the game, off the ball, defensively, and movements she makes that create space for others when their team are on the ball are fantastic. And this link-up play.
It's England, and it's over the bar. Just a little glimpse of what we can expect between those two. Good play by Cuthbert. England off target on this occasion, but that was neat play.
Yeah, whenever I watch Sam Kerr play, I think she brings intensity into the game. You know, those moments she recognises she has pressure behind her. It's a simple bounce. Obviously, teammate is there, reading play as well. England coming up for a one-touch strike, and probably going to see quite a bit of that today.
Interesting polka dot goalie kit for Sophie Bagley.
Goalkeeper kits over the years are fantastic, aren't they? Some blend in with the background at times, but others can be very standout.
I'm sure those marginal gains come into designing kits as well, especially for goalkeepers.
We could have a whole-hour conversation on different generations of Welsh kits that we've worn over many years. That sometimes were hot pants. And I remember one time we played Germany, and the opposition team were actually laughing as they walked past them because of the state of our kit. So thankfully these days those things don't happen, and the girls look very presentable and they're actually suitable for what they need on the pitch.
The good old days, eh?
A little bit of pressure! A little bit of pressure!
Thankfully far behind us. Master Antonio trying to work it forward.
She had actually a lot of time and space to play that pass, which is surprising.
Cuthbert trying to slip it through towards Sam Kerr. Bristol City get away only as far as Fran Kirby, and now Mielda still playing at right back, as she has done for the last season or so. Kirby cut out. Daniels inviting Charlie Wellings forward. That is going to be her afternoon, you suspect, isn't it, Wellings?
Well, we might well see a change, you know, as the game goes on in that position for Bristol, because she is going to have to put a heck of a lot of work into that role today. When they break, they're obviously going to try and hit her as early as they can, but when they're defending with that higher line, she's potentially dealing with the two centre-backs.
Just scored the 1 goal last season for Bristol City. Charlie Wellings joined from Birmingham. Really bright prospect. She's a lot of attributes. Perhaps needs to be a little bit more post in front of goal, although having said that, Bristol City just don't create an awful lot of chances. They scored just 9 goals last season in their 14 games. I think more worryingly is they have the worst goal difference in the league. They were on the end of that record-breaking Arsenal win, 11-1. But as we've seen in Arsenal's first couple of games this season, that can happen. Evans keeps this in.
Jen, you got a diag in, yeah? Bring it up, bring it up.
Yeah, they're sitting off, aren't they, a little bit, Chelsea?
Yeah, they've got kind of a mid-press line going on. They're allowing the back line of Bristol to have a bit of time and space to play, but keeping a lot of compactness between their units, so trying to restrict Bristol, obviously playing through those units.
Ella, go through the middle a bit more. Ella, go through the middle. Come all the way over.
It's got a fresh Bristol City squad as well. 7 out, 7 in over the closed season. But still very young, shopping a different market from Chelsea.
Yeah, and I think over the last few years, you know, the philosophy of the club has been to bring through youth. As soon as they see the talent there, give them opportunities to play, or bring in loan signings to bring the talent level up to hopefully compete against these top teams with far bigger budgets.
Long diagonal from Leupolz, and it will be caught up with by Erin Cuthbert. Tricky feet. Cross is dealt with in the first instance, and Cuthbert fires it wide.
The Chelsea squad's an interesting squad, and obviously a very good squad to have around Emma Hayes now, but they have a good blend of experience, but lots of really talented youth players too, and obviously Erin Cuthbert falls into that category. They recently signed another foreign player, obviously Jessie Fleming, who's again another youngster. So building for the future, as well as obviously trying to win titles here and now.
So got Charlotte Fleming, who's been promoted to the first team squad, not in the squad today, but another one for the future. Blundell, someone who's been at the club for nearly 10 years. Flo Allen clears for Bristol City. Wellings can't hold it up.
Just see Chelsea right now working it from side to side, trying to, you know, avoid the congested areas, which are central areas of the pitch right now. So they're trying to go around Bristol, work on the outside, get more numbers out in wide areas, try and combine and break them down.
England. Now Kirby, the elder on the overlap, dangerous. Easily held by Sophie Bagley. It did take a little nick off it to slow it down. Chelsea getting in behind for the first time.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep that tactics or whether, you know, they switch and play a few times, because obviously when you switch from one side to the other, the opposition team who are trying to get compact and defend well, it's a lot harder for them to do that if there's a couple of switches happening in a row. And then central areas, you know, space opens up.
Ooh, that was close. Flo Allen trying to see that one out, and Beth England thought she had nicked it off her in the nick of time, but Flo Allen can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. That is what Beth England will give you as well, just won't give up those lost causes.
Yeah, and she's coming off a fantastic season, isn't she? So I'm sure she's looking forward to this one getting up and running again for her.
Yep, scored 14 in 15 last season for Chelsea, carrying on from the previous season goal scoring form, and was this week named the PFA Player of the Season. It's to go with her FAWSL Player of the Season as well. Here is G. Captain Eriksson. That's a great ball.
A fantastic switch from Cuthbert, I believe, who dropped into central areas and came deep looking for the ball.
Kirby finds Mielda. Now G. Bright. Merpols. Away from Palmer. And again, sight of goal, and just bounces wide.
Seen an increase in tempo of the Chelsea play on the ball right now, you know, compared to the first 10 minutes of the game. These last couple of minutes, the ball's been moved in one or two touch, and obviously Leopold's opening up a little bit of space for herself there to get a shot off. Not quite on target, curling, but didn't quite curl in quick enough for her.
Just going to hold up a little bit, John. It's not going to go as fast as one goes fast.
It's not exactly come out all guns blazing, have they, Chelsea? It's just been a sort of neat build-up.
It's quite cagey at the moment. I think that's the word I'd use, where they, you know, they're sizing each other out. Chelsea potentially looking at where the spaces are opening up at times when they're moving the ball across the back line, and then looking to expose those spaces as we go on, I'd imagine.
Coming on your left shoulder. Next one. Next one. It goes.
But what we're seeing so far from the Bristol team is lots of hard work going into this defensive organisation. At times it looks, you know, like a 4-5-1 organisation when they're dropping a little bit deeper. But here we see with, you know, two high players trying to affect centre backs and trying to pinch the ball in the opposition half, which, as we mentioned earlier, maybe a little bit different to what fans were expecting today, having watched last week's games.
Bristol didn't play badly against Everton, but didn't really create an awful lot, and a lot of the, I mean, all four of the goals you could argue were just lapses of concentration, mistakes. Here's Cuthbert. And Kirby! Oh, it slipped through the fingers of Sophie Bagley. But Fran Kirby, well, she wouldn't have expected to score from there, but it's a special moment for her. Her first WSL goal for 16 months after such a tough time with the pericarditis diagnosis. And she's off the mark for the Women's Super League season, but that is a big error from Bagley.
Yeah, and we see Chelsea played a little bit more directly, went over the back line, then some support runners. Obviously, Fran being the main one here and getting the strike off with her left foot, but disappointing from a Bristol perspective. Bit too much time here for her to pick a shot. And oh, Sophie Bagley would be so disappointed with that, whether she didn't move her feet quick enough and get herself organised. She just kind of collapsed over the ball, didn't she? So really disappointing from a goalkeeper of her standard, where there was a lack of concentration and just not staying, you know, with ball movement and getting herself organised prior to that shot being taken. I'll leave that up to the goalkeeper coaches who are watching, but disappointing considering the fight they've had now for the first, 14 minutes of the game, Bristol. But I will add how fantastic it is to get Fran Kirby back on score sheets. Having worked with Fran when she was a lot younger in my time at Reading, it's a really enjoyable time for me personally as a head coach there, working with players with the talent levels of Fran and many others, and young players they were at the time. And, it's one of the things, it's still giving me goosebumps. Look, just being able to work with a player and see her progress, it makes me so happy to actually see the levels they've attained. And I just hope she continues, because I still think there's a lot of potential there to come out for England and for her club. Hopefully she stays fit and healthy now going forward.
She's had such a tough time of it. But it's been fantastic to see her form in the Community Shield against Manchester United. She was brilliant. This is obviously going to go down as a big mistake.
Oh, when you see that now from behind the goal and you see a lack of shape, an organisation, to get into a position to pick that ball up, because it was potentially an easy one to pick up.
Could be 2-0. And Bethingham didn't really get hold of that, but you can see evidence of a few nerves from Bagley now.
Yeah, disappointing start from her. When you think she's been such a consistent performer for the club now over the last couple of years, I believe, definitely last season. She's a very important part of the Bristol team, and somebody, I guess, as a management and a coaching team you always rely on. She's proven that you can do those things. But I'm sure she'll sort herself out now in the next few minutes and get her focus back and try and shake that mistake off, because it has gone now. She can't change it now. What she has to make sure is that she doesn't allow similar errors to happen as the game goes on.
All the respect in the world for anyone who wishes to become a goalkeeper. I will never understand it.
Well, we were having a brief chat earlier, weren't we? And we actually both love the science behind it. And I work with a fantastic goalkeeper coach, John Horton, who I'm going to give people a little bit of background on him. He's an ex-international skier. So he comes to the game of football from a very biomechanical background, and everything is based around how our goalkeepers move, and the targets we set them is based around, and we have very high targets that we set them. And I think it's part of the game that from a women's football perspective, there's still so much growth to happen in.
It's interesting learning about it, but actually being between the sticks.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't be brave enough, I know that.
Absolutely not. It is a massive shame, because Bristol City had started very well, with confidence. We've seen that they are technically proficient, good on the ball. Just need to pose a bit more of an attacking threat. Palmer puts it out of play.
Yeah, I think, we were speaking earlier about the games from last week, and having watched Bristol play against Everton, there were moments where they possessed the ball very well. A lot of the time it was happening in the defensive or the middle third, not quite happening in the attacking third for them right now. But there's a long season, there's still growth to happen for them.
Kirby linking up beautifully with G, and then Kerr. That's a very good challenge from Purfield.
I'm wondering if she actually went to strike that, whether she would have got there first, but it looked like she was trying to lay it back in the path of Fran Kirby. Interesting if we see that clip again. Because one thing I've learned about Sam Kerr, she's very unselfish. And, for a striker with her amount of goals, you wouldn't necessarily think that. Yeah, interesting play on the edge of the box there again from Chelsea.
Cuthbert will take the corner kick. It's deep, and it's towards Eriksson. And Bright at the back post. How has that stayed out? Still not cleared. Leupolz, and it's shoveled away by Sophie Bagley, and Bristol City somehow survive. Millie Bright, she was about a yard out.
I'm not sure which bit of that to focus on, because there were about 5 different incidents.
A lot to unpack there.
Gosh, yeah, first the unmarked free header, which probably should have been on target, well, should have been on target, and then the amount of time Bright has had in the post area to actually bring the ball down and get a shot off, and then the bad shot. So areas for both teams to work on the next corner.
We saw Chelsea last week. If we're being honest, it was a good Manchester United performance, especially in the second half, but they could have been home and hosed, couldn't they?
Yeah, definitely first half. They created some very, very good chances, and I think when you think of the talent they have in the team, you'd expect them to finish those chances. But they didn't take them, and Man United came back in the game and got the point that, I guess, second half performance they deserved.
Millie Bright now only scores from 30 yards, I think. So watching that Community Shield goal, it's unbelievable strike.
Well, if she looks back on this last 5 minutes, she'll be disappointed with not getting another goal in this game.
Chelsea, though, stroking it about beautifully with confidence. Kerr pulling wide. Bright to Kirby. Great movement, and now Ji So-yeon. England. Kirby, and now Sam Kerr. Good save by Bagley.
Lots of numbers in defensive third for Bristol there, 2 blocks of 4, but Chelsea still managing to play through central areas, which is a bit of a concern for Bristol. And we'll see it in it again here, a little bit of combination play just on the edge of the D.
That's really well done by Jasmine Matthews. Didn't just hoof it, tried to find a teammate, and then Chloe Lagazo draws the foul.
If she's in the box, you have to get pressure on her. She can't get a shot.
This was a chance for Sam Kerr. Decent save from Sophie Bagley.
Set it up then.
Yeah, we see Chelsea, just having a bit of time and space now on the edge of the box. Sam Kerr getting it out with her feet, and yes, obviously considering the last 10 minutes that Sophie Bagley's had, that's definitely an improvement, keeping her eye on the ball and clearing out the danger.
Palmer's set piece and away by Beth England, and now Bristol City will try to come again. That was disappointing because Matthews there wasn't in a lot of space if that pass had come off.
Passing details. It's disappointing when you're in a game like today, when you are going to have few chances in the opposition half, when you have time to play and a bit of space to use, and you have to make the most of them. And here we're seeing the corner from earlier where we had a free header that didn't hit the target, and then a free shot. And, from a Bristol perspective, they're doing enough, but, that was poor mark in there from the first instance. Millie Bright will be disappointed she didn't manage to keep that ball down, because I think it would have been in the back of the net. But, as I said, from a Bristol perspective, they're working hard. They might not be doing the right thing in the first instance, but they're recovering and managing to keep the ball out of the net.
Bit of panic stations, but
that's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
But as you say, it's effective. They did just enough on that occasion. Beth England offside. But midway through the first half, and Bristol City will be desperately disappointed with the goal they conceded. But apart from that, they've worked hard, managed to keep the defending champions at bay for most of the midway point. Here is Purfield, summer signing from Liverpool, now plying their trade in the Championship. Don't forget to stick with us at half-time. Ailey Barber and Claire Rafferty will have the draw for the semi-final of the FA Cup. Half-time at Kingsmeadow. Chelsea are in it, of course. They play Everton in the quarter-finals on Saturday the 26th of September. Other ones are Brighton against Birmingham, Leicester against Manchester City, and also Arsenal against Spurs, which is live on BBC 2 on the 26th, 5:15 start. The new round of the FA Cup has started, by the way, Jane. Preliminary rounds, but haven't finished last season's yet. I think that's the first time that's ever happened.
Challenging times for everybody still.
Evans gets up well. Mastrantonio finds Palmer. Daniels wriggling away from the challenge. Doesn't have anyone out wide to find, and that particular passage of play just breaks down.
Shape now! Shape now! Figure it out quickly!
Yeah, again, we see them possessing the ball, you know, defensive middle third, but not quite managing to retain it in the higher areas of the pitch to give them goal-scoring opportunities right now.
Just be aware. There you go, there in front of you, Ella. Jazz, Ella, you just run by out. Just be aware. Push the midfield out, Jazz, Jazz. G in the middle.
Blundell. Down the line for Cuthbert. Good challenge by Flo Allen. Frank Kirby gets the decision. Free kick in a good position for Chelsea.
You just see Fran obviously aware of the pressure coming on the right-hand side and allowing the ball to run over to our left foot, kind of waiting for contact. And, you know, good forwards, good attacking players are always aware of those situations on the edge of the box. Great position here for Chelsea.
3v2 at the back, so we got spare. We don't need a spare.
They're absolutely queuing up to take this one for Chelsea. A lot of candidates here. I think one of them would have been on the bench. Your captain.
Yes, and for very few occasions I'm happy to see my players on the bench, but today is one of them.
It's going to be G, and it's straight at Bagley. Yes, we should mention international break coming up.
Well done, Baggers.
And you have a very important qualifier in about 10 days' time.
Yes, we have Norway away. We are very much looking forward to everybody turning up to camp tonight, fit and healthy, haven't had good games today, or haven't had a rest, as in Sophie Ingles' situation, which is, yes, a little bit different for her. She probably doesn't want to be on the bench, to be fair, but kind of pleasing thing for us to know that she'll come into camp rested, and hopefully looking forward to competing well next week for us.
She started all 15 games last season before it was curtailed. Scored 4 goals as well.
Super Soph.
A Rolls Royce of a midfielder.
Yeah, she's, as I always say about Sophie Ingle, there's still a lot of potential there. I think she can go to even higher levels, and I hope, well, I believe she's at the right club to do that, and hopefully they can help her get there.
G plays it straight to Humphrey. Tries to set Charlie Wellings away, and Eriksson let that bounce, and Wellings trying to battle for it. That's a really good play from Mastrantonio. Humphrey
created a good amount of space for herself there to play.
Here comes the cross, but it's too close to Anne-Katrin Berger. Promising.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised Chelsea are making the most of those transition moments, though, to when Bristol are going forwards with numbers, which is good to see. There is a lot of space to then exploit if they break a little bit quicker than they are right now. But, you know, that's not a philosophy for them. They want to build, retain the ball. The ball is important to them, to possess the ball. And they obviously have certain patterns they're working on within this game.
Loose pass from Matthews gives possession back to Chelsea.
G off the back. Chloe, just watch you. Step out, step out. There you go. Left shoulder cloak. G in there. In the pocket.
Cuthbert. Yelder. 3 of Chelsea's regular back 4 were named in the team of the season. Millie Brighton, the Scandinavian players, Magdalena Eriksson and Maren Mjelde, so consistently good for Chelsea. Space opening up here for G, and that's going to be a penalty. Jana Daniels went to ground. It had to be perfectly timed, and it wasn't, and Chelsea had the opportunity here to double their advantage.
And Chelsea have just shown why they are patient in build-up play, and they possess the ball. They've moved it from left to right. You know, they've gone over and back a few times, which has opened up spaces centrally, and then we get G on the ball, running directly at the defenders, and, you know, these things happen. A bit rash of a tackle there. She probably had enough backup and security behind her to not have... I don't think she had to make that tackle, but, you know, hindsight's a great thing.
You felt like she could get there, that's the thing. But no, clear penalty, as clear as you'll see. And it's going to be Maren Mjelde, who absolutely fires it into the top corner, emphatic from the Norwegian international. And with half an hour played, Chelsea lead Bristol City by 2-0.
Mjelde's a really interesting player. I know a lot about her right now, so we're playing against her next week. So she's a fantastic player. Plays anywhere across the back line for Emma Hayes' team. And fantastic technician, as we can see here. Nobody's saving that. If you go the right way, I don't think you're saving that. Some goalkeeper coaches might disagree with me, but great penalty there from Mjelde.
Beautifully taken.
And one of the players who I think probably doesn't get enough recognition, or maybe she does in her homeland, to be fair, wouldn't know those things, but when we think of how well Chelsea have done over the last few years, and she's a week in, week out performer for them.
She's one of those players who is shifted about quite a lot. Right back, centre half, and centre mid, I think she's played for Chelsea.
Very consistent, very reliable, and somebody great to have in your squad.
But sometimes those players, those so-called utility players, are perhaps underrated occasionally.
Do you know what? She's probably, I don't know if I'd call her a utility player, because with
I don't
those
like
players,
that word.
with those players, sometimes you kind of go, well, they're not really starting very often, but you know who they can fit into a slot. She's always starting, so she's kind of the top level of a utility player that can play anywhere on the pitch for you.
Yeah, it does imply a sort of backup, yeah, and the master of none, which is certainly not her.
Which, by the way, from a coach's perspective, we love those players. Absolutely love them, even though that word might not make it sound like a great job to have in a squad. It's a fantastic thing for coaches to have an abundance of those players.
Another rash challenge.
Yeah, was it much in it? Obviously, she's caught her, she's tripped her. You go, did she need to do it again? I think those things, as a team right now, Bristol need to try and prevent happening, because, you know, giving away corners, free kicks in these areas are dangerous positions for them.
Cuthbert will deliver. Floated in. Oh, and it's a third. What a header that was.
Fantastic header. You'd question the defending on it, because it looked like a free header again, but she launched herself at it.
Melanie Leupolz has her first goal for Chelsea. She was just the most aggressive player in that box, and that ball was hers.
Well, heading is one of those contentious technical things to teach right now, but if any young player is wanting to learn how to head a ball, how to attack a ball when it's coming over in the area, that is definitely one to watch. Fantastic. So much power on it. Those neck muscles are tensed. Wow, so much power on that. It was a fantastic header. But again, you flip it from a defensive point of view. Could they have done better? Yeah. Could they have blocked her in the first place? Could they have attacked the ball? Yes. So from a Bristol perspective, disappointing. From a Chelsea perspective, fantastic goal.
I mean, from a Bristol City perspective, you can always be critical of a conceding from a set piece, but my word, that was some header.
The thing is, the corner, I believe 10-15 minutes earlier, should have given them a bit of an indicator of what was to come, and their defensive setup there is probably something they may look at half-time.
It's escalated quickly, hasn't it, for Bristol City. Chelsea taking their chances.
Well, look, what we're seeing a Bristol City team come here. They're playing 4-4-2 organisation when the ball's in the opposition half. They're trying to win the ball back in high areas, but right now it's becoming a massive issue for them, as we're seeing Cuthbert driving straight through the middle of this defensive block.
A miscue from Maren Mjelde. Let's have another look at this.
Oh, I could watch these things all day. This is fantastic. Let's see where she starts her movement. Look, she's just at the back here. She's moving into the front of the row. It's a bit of like a bus stop organisation that some teams do. She's pulled off and then she goes and attacks it.
And she's probably being fouled, actually. If we look at Perfield is not looking at the ball.
No, she's got lost, hasn't she? She's got lost. She's just keeping her eye completely on the player. Doesn't know where the ball is. Doesn't know when contact's going to arrive. And for the attacking player, that's a real positive because you can just pick your moment and, you know, you explode at that right moment as ball contact's about to happen. And she's stronger than her. Fantastic header. Great example of how to finish in the box.
Sam Kerr, Chelsea in complete control. Look like they're enjoying themselves.
It's too easy for them right now.
Right. Space for Cuthbert to take aim now, and it's 4. Way too much space. And Erin Cuthbert fires in a 4th for Chelsea with still 10 minutes to go until the break. She had way too much time though to pick her spot.
Little pocket Scottish rocket. Great young player, this one, but look, you can't give a player that amount of time with her finishing ability on the edge of the D. She's turned on it. She's had what seemed like a good few seconds. Obviously, it's a split second, but she sets herself up straight through the middle of the ball. Lots of power on it. Not giving Sophie Bagley much opportunity at all. But you know, I'm surprised Sophie Bagley hasn't got up there and started barking orders at her backline in midfield because that's not good enough.
I make that 3 goals in 6 minutes for Chelsea. It's been a bit of a capitulation, and my word, it could get worse. Here is Sam Kerr. Defensive challenge by Jasmine Matthews. Kerr tried to pull it back, and now here's G.
Oh, we've seen there on 2 occasions the unselfish nature of one of the best strikers in the world, but there's a bit of me going, take it on yourself. Because I think she probably had enough time and space to do that in the first instance with just one defender to beat. But she's on the ball again here.
Here is Kerr. Oh, and tried to tee it up for Beth England, who didn't get contact. Mielda will try. And try again. Cuthbert. And now G. Kirby. Very congested in that box. And finally a challenge comes in.
Yeah, it was either going to be a foul or a good hard challenge, and we saw the good hard challenge because I think there's a little bit of frustration happening amongst the Bristol midfield right now.
Relentless pressure from Chelsea. Still 7 minutes to go until half-time. Ji So-young.
Well, look, we're seeing in that
pull the
instance,
strings.
I think there were 5 players around G, but she's still managing to take a touch and then set up her next pass. And we're, you know, it's on the edge of the box, so we definitely have to tighten up the defensive organisation in and around the edge of the box now for Bristol. There's some tired legs out there. Look, it's early days in the season. Physically, they're not probably at the levels that they will be in the next month, but yeah, there's spaces opening up way too easy for Chelsea right now.
Perfield is pulled up for the challenge eventually on Fran Kirby. We've seen in the past 1.5 games nearly, Bristol City are not very adept at defending set pieces. Cuthbert leaves it for Mielda, free header, and it is 5. Millie Bright does get her goal. A rout in the first half for Chelsea, and a 5th different goal scorer for Chelsea. 5-0 they lead.
So let's talk a little bit about the defensive organisation of Bristol right now on a wide free kick. They're deciding to pick up, so they're man marking, if you look, player to player. Oh, this is a really hard one for me to say, but my Welsh international Gemma Evans has just got completely done by a run across the front, which is something we stipulate all the time in our national team camps. Cannot happen. You block that run, you block that front run across you, because they are so dangerous, especially when you give players of that size, that level of ability, time. She could just pick out an area to direct that. header in. And fantastic header, nothing away from Millie Bright, nothing away from the delivery from Chelsea, but really disappointing from a defensive point of view, 1v1 man marking situation there. As people who are fans of the Welsh national team, you'll know that's a priority for us defensively, so I'm a little bit disappointed with how that goal has occurred. But obviously, Chelsea fans out there, great performance so far and great finish from set play.
Well, I wonder if Chelsea and Emma Hayes was watching Arsenal yesterday and thinking, after the first 2 games, they've got an enormous goal difference. We need to get us some of that. And they are doing so.
Yeah, and do you know, you look back to the first 15 minutes of the game, I couldn't see it happening, could you? It was very cagey, it was very slow, there wasn't much tempo in the game, but since that first goal, it's drastically changed. Obviously, we're seeing Bristol tire a little bit as the first half has gone on. They're opening up a few too many gaps for the Chelsea midfield and front line to exploit.
Another saying I hate, Jane, but has Bristol's heads dropped, or is that just too simplistic?
No, I think it's a little bit simplistic. I think what I would say is they need half-time to come quite quickly right now to regroup and refocus and get priorities right for the second 45 minutes in this match. Hopefully they can hold out for themselves now in the next few minutes and not leak any more goals. But there's some key areas that aren't going well for them right now that can be changed in a half-time talk and reorganisation. So I'm sure that Tanya's got her nose together and she'll be focusing on some key things. And the other thing I think that's important when she goes into that changing room, which I'm sure she's already recognising, is the confidence levels amongst the group to challenge them to try and compete in the second 45 minutes, because it is going to be tough, physically and mentally.
Yeah, I mean, coming out for the second half is...
do you go in and throw teacups around, or do you go in and be nice to everyone? And I would not know the answer, because I do not work with this squad of players. It is all about knowing your players, and she will know them inside out. So I'm sure she'll pick the best way to go with that.
Is there a nice way of throwing a teacup? So difficult, isn't it, for Tanya Ox to be?
Each manager has their own different way of working with players, the different body language we use at times. You might not need to say a word when you walk in there to get people to understand your feelings. But we're assuming that it'll all be negative. There may be things on the pitch right now that the boss is actually quite happy with. And maybe she'll focus on those to keep trying to exploit those areas more, alongside tightening up different defensive organisation.
There's Lagazo, a couple of Aussies who've joined over the summer for Bristol City. This could be a chance here for Palmer. Guess they're ahead of Blundell, wanting some options, trying to pull it back.
It's just final details, isn't it? That pass, you want that pass to be better. You've got yourself in that position, you've got bodies forwards, that pass needs to be spot on.
Sam Kerr allowed to stride forward. G. There's Cuthbert. Onto Mielda. Away from Purfield. Oh, actually, she got back really well, the left back.
Yeah, good example of a delay in 1v1 there, keeping her on the outside, forcing her away from goal, and then kind of a recovery 1v1 tackle in the end to get the ball out. Unfortunately for a corner for the Blues again. Let's see if Bristol have learnt anything from the last one.
Cuthbert over this one again. 1 minute left of the first half. It's another good delivery, and it's another header which is off target this time from Eriksson. I think it's fair to say Chelsea have managed to remedy their problem with taking their chances that we saw from last week.
Yeah, and it could be more. I think of the opportunities they've had, that one corner in particular where I think it was, 2 or 3 shots that should have gone in.
first one, shouldn't have. Should have been a regulation save from Bagley.
Yeah, disappointing. It's funny how games work really in those instances. And there's a simple mistake made, and then heads go down a little bit, and then the team who have scored the goal exploit that moment, get a few more in.
Nielda coming in off the touchline to find Leupolz.
Seeing that switch through midfield again for Chelsea, lots of time and space to get the ball from one side of the pitch to the other.
Here's G. Kirby.
Lovely pass picked out by G then. Breaking lines.
She is conducting things, isn't she?
Oh, it's lovely
G.
watching those two work in the midfield area and the combinations. I enjoyed watching the game against Man United with the three of them in there, with Sophie Ingle too, and the understanding they seem to have already. And we're seeing from the two in midfield today that partnership again.
Sam Kerr trying to join in with Beth England. That is it for the first half, which has been an emphatic performance from Chelsea. Took them a while to get going, but 5-0 they lead at the break. 5 different goal scorers. Millie Bright with the latest one. Bristol City all about damage limitation going into the second half. This game is pretty much wrapped up. See if Chelsea could do any more damage going in after the break. Half-time at Kingsmeadow. Chelsea 5, Bristol City 0.
A women's football match is a football match.
Un equip de futbol femení és un equip de futbol.
Un regate de una jugadora es un regate.
Un paradón es un paradón.
Un golazo es un golazo.
Passion for football is passion for football. Football isn't for girls, nor for boys. Football is for footballers.
Be one of the top performers for them week in, week out. And to be fair to the kids, you know, one mistake in I don't know how many games isn't a bad run. But you're right, with the other goals that have happened, there could be certain tactical alterations she could make. But the majority, I think, have been quite tough for her to actually make a difference to. I think they'd be more concerned with the backline midfield areas defensively.
So the second half about to get underway at Kingsmeadow. Chelsea so effective at their home stadium. The last time they lost in the WSL was January 2019, 3-2 defeat to Birmingham. And even though they don't have their supporters to back them this afternoon, that doesn't seem to have affected them. Usually have a great following in that part of London. And it's Chelsea who get us underway for the second half. And the game is over effectively as a contest, Jane, in terms of who's taking home the points. But Bristol City need to have something to play for.
Yeah, it is about credibility within the league right now. We've seen some interesting results in this campaign so far. Some strange ones that probably weren't expected. But for Bristol, it is about trying to get some gains from the second 45 minutes as individuals, whether it's as units or whether it's the team as a whole perspective and how they stick together and how they work for each other. But, you know, I'd imagine they're going to sit a little bit deeper, but we'll see now as the half progresses.
Eriksson. Second season as the captain, Eriksson. Of course, called up for the Sweden squad. Got European qualifiers against Hungary and Iceland coming up. Blundell into Kerr, exchanging passes. There's a chance for Chelsea early on, and that has been blocked by Bristol City. Frank Kirby on the end of that.
Yeah, and you can see Fran just holding her hand up to Beth England, I think, just to apologise, because they just got in each other's way in the 6-yard box. You good build-up play, good combinations, and then a great pass over into the 6-yard area. But as you can see, two Blues contesting that ball, trying to get on the end of it and score that 6th goal.
That was almost Beth England saying, "You're in my spot."
Yeah, to be fair, Fran's a little bit smaller, isn't she?
Cuthbert, her deliveries have been effective all afternoon. It's another free header, which is miscued this time by Melanie Leupolz, who scored a brilliant header in the first half.
Yeah, disappointing end product there from her, considering the one I was raving about first half, that good finish. A little bit of a deeper delivery, mind, a bit harder to deal with. Timing not quite right on that one.
But again, unmarked.
Yes, you're right.
Chelsea pressing a bit higher, actually, already in this second half. Bristol City get it away this time. And Daniels, a bit late on Erin Cuthbert.
Yeah, good. Higher pressing line from Chelsea. You know, you can see why Emma Hayes has done it, because the trend from Bristol is to play out of the back, irrelevant of whether it's a high press or a medium press against them. So it'll be interesting to see if they do manage to do that against this Chelsea team who are full of energy right now.
Eriksson going over that long diagonal. Purfield gets there first, but here is Mielder. Millie Bright. Leupolz eventually gets the ball down.
Lots of space here in central areas for players like Cuthbert and Jean to get on the ball and pick out passes.
Bristol City have made a meal of getting this away. Beth England's first shot is closed down. A touch just lets her down. She tried to create the space for another effort on goal. It was a 6-1 win for Chelsea in this fixture last season. They've actually scored 6 times against Bristol City in 2 of the last 3 meetings. So a familiar feeling. Eriksson. Here is Maren Mielder.
Seeing a much lower block from Bristol now. It's kind of a 5-4-1 setup, but I believe they've gone into at the moment.
Charlie Wellings is the out ball, but not been found. England dropping deeper, finds Millie Bright. For all the rotation going on at Chelsea, Millie Bright played every single second of WSL last season. I dare say might do the same this season, should she stay fit. Wellings giving chase here. Bright will get there first. And easily cleared up by Chelsea, with Wellings the only red shirt nearly inside the Chelsea half.
Change of tactics for Bristol. You know, they are sitting deeper. They're trying to make sure they protect their own half spaces far better than they did in the first half. But as we see now, when they break, it is likely to be just one trying to win free kicks or trying to hope that there's a backline mistake by putting a bit of pressure on them. But they're the majority of the time going to get very little support.
Kerr centre. Oh, and that should have been 6. Terrific cross. Fran Kirby steers it off target.
Space out wide here for Sam Kerr to use, and again she picks out a fantastic ball across the front for forwards to get on and just, you know, place into the back of the net. You can see there Fran Kirby just leaning back and falling back as she makes contact, which obviously takes the ball up in the air. But Sam Kerr is an interesting one, isn't she? The more we watch her play, because she's floating in wide areas at times, in central areas, and she's very effective in whichever area she actually finds herself in. Very comfortable, looking to pick out passes to set her teammates up. And I'd imagine her assists this year will be just as high as the goals she scores.
She arrived with the goal scorer tag, didn't she? But actually she's looked a bit more comfortable with more players around her. Kerr trying to find Beth England because, well, when the formations came out at least, it was a top 2, a front 2, and Bagley has lost this. Bristol City still trying to clear their lines, and they do eventually with Matthews.
There's been an interesting, I guess, transformation, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but over the last 5-6 years with Chelsea, looking at how they've built gradually, how they've brought in top talent at varying ages, different times. You know, Emma obviously making the judgments of what she needs where.
Here is England. Back to Leopolds. And the effort by G is repelled. Wellings hoping for some support. Possession back with the Blues straight away.
Yeah, so 5-4-1 block going on now. That the difficulty they're going to have, Bristol, is to stop the switch of play happening. It's a 4-4-2. It's still at times that the deeper they go into their defensive third becomes a 5, because we've got midfielders dropping into the back line because they're tracking runs.
Daniels for Bristol City. Wellings providing an outlet. Now Legarzo. Time on the ball now for the away side.
And this is where we saw, for the first 6-7 minutes of the second half, Chelsea pressing higher, and they are starting to do it now. Because they probably believe they can actually pinch these balls back from the Bristol backline.
Evans goes long, flag goes up.
Another opportunity in the box. She could high dink. Sophie Bagley coming out, not quite claiming, and then obviously Sam Kerr again, the touch on it, but doesn't link up with another Blue, unfortunately for them.
Kerr. It's a good burst. Blundell with a big touch.
So what we saw there was Sam Kerr actually committing a player to open up a space. Great example for younger players to see. You know, she's actually taking the ball on the inside to commit the defender to open up that outside space for the fullback to go round her. It's a great example today, or great opportunity to watch some of these top-level players having a bit of time and space to play and seeing their individual skill sets coming to the fore. Not necessarily a good thing for Bristol players to be experiencing, but good for a fan to be watching these players having time and space to use.
A couple of substitutions for Bristol City. Actually, it's a triple one, it looks like. Ebony Salmon coming on, Abby Harrison as well. Yana Daniels, Carla Humphrey coming off. Salmon was Bristol City's top scorer last season. Tanya Oxtoby told us ahead of kickoff that she had taken a knock in training which is why she wasn't quite fit to start, but she'll get 35 minutes or so in the second half. And Emma Bissell on as well, signed in the summer from Manchester City. So a triple substitution for Bristol. I think when you're out of possession for so long, it's just nice to have a few fresh legs on and share the load.
Yeah, the concentration levels need to stay high. Be aware of movement in and around them. Obviously keep their discipline with regards to the defensive shape. But be aware of where movement is occurring in and around them as well.
All at the same time.
Shot by Leupolz, off target. Abby Harrison on as well for Bristol City. She's one of a number of Bristol City players actually who had a long-term injury. One of the number of women's players who had the dreaded ACL. Kept her out for 10 months. She was back, started last week against Everton and was taken off. Still working her way back to full fitness, but she's one that they have high hopes for Scottish international.
Frustrating time to be out for so long, because obviously, as I think most people will know, an ACL is a fairly long recovery time for any player to be out of the game. You're looking at a complete season usually. Takes quite a bit of resilience to come back strong from it. But, you know, young players cope a lot better, I'd imagine. Having said that, you know, we had Jess Fishlock out with a similar injury recently, and she's come back firing on all cylinders. So I guess it's about the individual being resilient and coping with that tough situation.
Well, our pundit for the Women's Football Show will see your one and raise you three, and she managed to come back. Claire Rafferty with Ailey Barber. Women's Football Show tonight, 8 o'clock on the red button, or straight after Match of the Day, 2 on BBC One. Here's Beth England. That's a lovely cut back, and Sam Kerr couldn't quite get there. Fran Kirby's cross shot not turned in.
Some good combination play here, Fran, you know, giving the ball to Beth England, then going to support that ball, that pass. And it was a pass, wasn't it? I think she should have had the shot. But an opportunity there for Chelsea gone.
There's a debut for Emma Bissell. As mentioned, signed in the summer from Manchester City, came through their academy system. Another very young player, just 18 years old. It's the majority of this Bristol City team. They have a couple of players that are bringing the average age up.
Young players, they'll learn a lot from a game like this today. You know, they'll be a little bit frustrated to be so far away from, you know, trying to get a result, but they would have learned a lot from playing against these level players.
It's a great turn from Erin Cuthbert. G trying to slip it through. It's a lovely play. G with the cross, and Kerr's header over the top.
If we compare, you know, the setup that Bristol have now second half, it's a far more compact 4-4-1-1 the majority of the time. That's getting into a back five at times when they're very deep. They are restricting, you know, spaces in and around the box a little bit better than they did in the first 45 minutes. But the tough thing with that is when they do pinch the ball, what outlets they have. And right now, obviously, they have Salmon on her own as the target player, and trying to hit her between the two centre-backs for Chelsea is going to be a tough ask.
Question is, Jane, obviously it's a difficult one to answer because hindsight's a wonderful thing. Should they have started like this, Bristol City, with a lower block?
Oh, I won't make those judgment calls. Look, I think it's a hard enough job without me making those assumptions for Tanya Oxtoby. What I would say for any manager in this league is they know their players inside out. They know the situations, the different struggles they have at times, but they know their environment the best, and they're the ones to make those decisions. I think as fans, we can look at it and go, ooh, they need to tighten up in certain areas. Could you make different decisions? Yes, but you know, we don't know all the details either, so it's always a tough one to call.
Quite right. And Tanya Oxtoby has been with this group for a long time. Appointed in July 2018. Cuthbert just showed a bit too much of that, and it's floated just wide. Going to be a corner.
It's more difficult now for the Chelsea midfield to play through those central areas than it was first half, so that's a positive for Bristol. We're seeing Cuthbert on the ball. She had a very, effective first half of the game. We're finding it a little bit more difficult to open up those spaces centrally and get opportunities.
Cuthbert's corner. It's found its way to Leupolz. That's a good save. She's got down well, Sophie Bagley.
Look at the setup they have for defensive corners. You know, it's kind of a mix. There's a couple of zonal players there protecting space, but then the rest are man markers. And believe it or not, that was a man marking situation against Leupolz, but she's ended up with tons of time to be able to try and control this ball and get it down. But you're right, it was a good stop in the end from the goalkeeper.
But not for the first time. Chelsea have had a free player.
Yeah, they're losing their man markers too easily for me right now. When they, those situations they're making so difficult for the goalkeeper to try and make good calls in those situations.
We are going to get a glimpse, a longer glimpse of Camilla Harder. Looks like she's just going to look at some of the instructions, the set pieces perhaps.
Usually the set play book, isn't it? Well, sometimes it's a set play iPad these days with a book as backup, depending on how you use technology.
Only got 10 minutes against Manchester United, so building up her fitness here. Kerr with the cutback. Kirby got there first, very sharp from Kirby. G. Very congested in there.
Yeah, well, look, we're 20 minutes into the second half, and the same pattern is happening a bit with Bristol. They look like they're getting a bit leggy and a bit tired because gaps are opening up again. And they did well for the first period of the first half, but then physically, being dragged right, left, when balls are being switched across the park becomes challenging when you're not seeing much of the ball. And then the spaces are opening up for Chelsea to exploit, as we're seeing here.
Brilliant pass by G, and it's lost by Bagley and bagged by Beth England. Reacted so quickly there, England, to get her first WSL goal of the season. She's off the mark once again. A poacher's goal, a trademark goal for Beth England, and it is 6-0 to Chelsea.
And it's G playing those forward passes, splitting that back line between full-back and centre-back, and Chelsea, good crossing, but it's great to see Beth England getting off the mark as well. Sophie Bagley, could she have held that ball? I think so. But good finish from Beth England, taking nothing away from her. Poacher's goal, get on the end of it and get that one-touch finish.
That is the cue for substitutions for Chelsea. Melanie Leupolz off. And here comes Pernilla Harder. With 66 minutes on the clock, Bristol City look across and find the women's record signing coming on. That is the last touch that Beth England will have. She does have her goal. She is still building up fitness herself, had her appendix out. She's not an operation you recover from quickly. And so Harder from Wolfsburg makes her first home appearance of the season for her new club. Not exactly the sight you do want to see when you're 6-0 down.
No, if you're in the opposition team, definitely not. If you're a fan, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing her produce what I've seen her produce for a national team over many years.
The 1 o'clock kickoff, it is half-time, and it's goalless between Everton and Spurs at Walton Hall Park. And the flag is up against Sam Kerr. There's confirmation of the changes there. Torres Dottir, Niamh Charles also coming on for her Chelsea debut. Having the 5 substitutes rule carry on for Chelsea in particular is going to be mighty beneficial, not just because of their strength and depth, but, well, everyone keeps talking about keeping players happy, and that's the main thing that Emma Hayes has to do. She has done it for the last few years, really. I guess this makes it slightly easier that she does have a couple more up her sleeve.
I'd use the term match ready rather than keeping them happy. You know, they need game time.
Here's Harder. Fantastic footwork, and it's going to be a tap-in. And it's a 7th, and it's Niamh Charles, who's barely been on the field for 5 minutes, and she's got her goal on her competitive debut for Chelsea.
Probably her first touch, I believe.
Most probably. All about the fancy footwork from Pernilla Harder. Found its way to her. Charles, with one of the easiest goals she'll score, makes it 7-0.
Yeah, Harder probably overcomplicated it a bit here. She created a bit of space to get a shot off, but then took her on again. But look, it's ended up going to a teammate, and easy finish into the back of the net within the 6-yard box for the youngster. Great start for her.
7-0. 7 different goal scorers.
Great for the team morale, and you know, building that momentum as they kick off this league campaign.
And still 20 minutes remaining.
Yeah, and we're seeing Bristol pressing high again. We're seeing Bristol trying to win the ball back in the opposition half. They've got a front 4 at the moment. 4-2-4 set up with how that's animated. But good energy in wide area there to make sure the ball's gone out of play.
More subs. Jess Carter and Guru Wrighton. We were talking about Sophie Ingle, who will get a rest. Good for you, Jane, but Guru Wrighton's also not going to get on.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yes, we are playing Norway next week.
Here is Kerr. Good stop by Sophie Bagley. Off her line quickly.
I'm sure Sophie Ingle will come into camp later and tell me that she wanted to be playing today, so is probably a little bit annoyed, but she knows how it works in a top-level club, and I'm sure she's enjoying watching her teammates perform very well today.
Another Chelsea corner, another Cuthbert delivery. First contact, again, Eriksson. Another corner kick.
Yes, the defensive setup for Bristol isn't quite working for them today, is it? Those long, deeper balls tending to hit a blue head before they hit anybody else right now. You look, there's a 4 red players marking the 4 blues on the edge of the box. It's a man marking part here that we're seeing a close-up of.
Chelsea work it short to Torres Dottir. Now Kirby. Cuthbert with the delivery. Back post, Kerr. And Bristol City evade another goal for now, making a meal of clearing this. Frank Kirby trying to keep the pressure on. Eventually Bagley gets her boot to it.
Great clearance within that melee there from Matthews, you know, diving across, and there's probably another goal about to happen if she hadn't intercepted.
Effort from Torres Dottir. Sam Kerr showing her aerial ability as well.
Yeah, just placing this header back into the 6-yard where she's expecting people to run on, but there you go, there you see Jazz Matthews flinging herself at that ball, which is great to see from a centre-back perspective in her own 6-yard.
She's had a good game, Sam Kerr, but again, it's going to come down to she hasn't, well, we've still got time, but she still hasn't scored.
Yeah, I don't think the Chelsea backroom staff will be concerned, because I think they realise there's far more to her game than just being a goal scorer. I think that's why she's been signed. Great for her individually if she ends up racking up those goal numbers as the season goes on, but from a team perspective, she's doing what they need her to do right now. She's bringing people into play, she's assisting people, she's creating opportunities for others, and that's, you know, great to see from a team perspective.
Change it right back for Bristol City. Faye Bryson coming on for Flo Allen. Brighton started the game against Everton last weekend. Charles receives it back from Kerr. Oh, and that is, what a fantastic goal. Pernilla Harder, that is world class.
Can I get excited now? That's what I've been waiting for. That was the great build-up play, but too easy as well. You know, we've got give and go from the Chelsea attack line here in a wide area, making it, you know, it's too easy for them. We see Charles playing it through the legs here, Sam Kerr playing it back, and then a great pass across the 6-yard and a flick. You know, it's a bit of a Cruyff going on, a bit of a flick into the back of the net where she's allowed it to run through her legs and she's flicked it in. Wow. Great goal from an individual perspective, but also from a build-up play perspective for Chelsea. But flip it, disappointing from Bristol. Way too much space they're allowing this group of top-level players against them. In defensive thirds, it's too easy for Chelsea today.
Welcome to the WSL, Pernilla Harder. What a way to score your first ever goal. The confidence to pull that off, the vision, perfection.
Look, I always related to the young kids watching the game, wanting to be a player in the future, and they're now watching things like that happen, and it'll be happening on a regular basis, I'd imagine, not just in front of goal, but in build-up play as well. When top-level female players of this generation have the ball at their feet, they're technically very gifted, they're very confident in what they do, and it's just, you know, so fantastic to watch as an older generation player, seeing the level of players that are now coming through, and we're able to see them week in, week out on the TV, which is fab. If you can't go to live games, which you can't right now, we're still able to watch and be fans of the game and the individuals.
Eriksson to Kerr, off the bar. It's just not happening for Sam Kerr. Still time.
I actually think that's the one moment I think she'll be disappointed with in the game today, because she's got a fantastic record of scoring from her head. And even for a smallish player, she has a great leap and a great ability.
Cuthbert, low drive, fielded by Sophie Bagley.
Good delivery here from centre-back Eriksson. Good contact, obviously, just couldn't quite get it down. But look at the leap, great timing, good contact. Not quite dipping quick enough for her.
That's great technique, wasn't it?
Really strong neck muscles. You know, when you're teaching kids to head the ball and punch it back at people, it's a great example of when you watch how her body moves when she's making contact. And it is, you know, the arms are going, the power is coming from the body and the neck muscles, and the timing is great.
2 o'clock kickoffs underway elsewhere in the Barclays FA Women's Super League. Birmingham Man United, Man City, Brighton and Reading Aston Villa. That'll be an interesting one, actually, to see how Reading responds, and Aston Villa.
Yeah, new to the league, obviously the one team, Aston Villa, and Reading, who've been in the league a fair few years now, who have shown that they can compete with the best in previous seasons. Obviously had a disappointing start to the season last week against Arsenal, so they'll be hoping for better performance from everybody today.
Well, Aston Villa as well, I don't think we saw what they're all about when they played Manchester City. They lost 2-0, both of the goals were big defensive errors. Certainly some nerves, but they've been heavily backed. We'll see how they do.
I'm sure it'll be a case of them progressing as the season goes on, from players learning the environment and understanding how to compete at this level, to the coach making different decisions from what they learn each game that goes by.
A very young coach as well.
Yeah, good to see that she's been given an opportunity to bring the team through at this level now.
Cuthbert. Charles. Nearly found Kerr. Picked up by G. Harder. G. And patted away by Bagley. She has made some good saves this afternoon, Bagley, despite the scoreline.
She's had a lot to do, hasn't she?
She certainly has. Harder fouled by Purfield.
See G here, obviously following the pass on and the run into the box. Straight at the goalkeeper though, so no joy in that moment. But for her as an individual player, she's great again for a youngster to watch. If you watch the detail, whenever she's receiving a ball, she's sideways on, she's ready to play forward. She's had that look behind her, recognising where pressure's coming from. If pressure is coming from one way, she'll take it the opposite way because she's read that pressure, and technically she's able to do those things. But her vision is fantastic, because when she does have space to play, she's threading balls through this at times congested midfield and backline unit for Bristol.
Ericsson's delivery. And a defensive header by Lugazzo. And as we mentioned, doesn't get any easier for Bristol. They have Arsenal after the international break, but it's not these games that are going to keep them up or achieve their goals this season. Corner work short, Cuthbert. Here's Fran Kirby. Got the scoring going after 15 minutes. Kerr has been doing most of her work from those wide areas. She has had a few opportunities in more central positions. G.
As you'll see with all the front line of Chelsea, they're happy to make movements to create space for others at times, and you'll see Kerr doing that quite a lot. But as you said, she does manage, when she is making those movements at times, she's obvious open pass in wide areas because of how Bristol is set up defensively too.
Manchester United have taken the lead at Birmingham. Jane Ross after just 5 minutes. And Kirby coming off for Chelsea. So is G. Drew Spence coming on. And another competitive debutant for Chelsea in Jessie Fleming, Canadian international. So I believe that is a nice rest in the sun for your captain, Jane.
Yeah, she looked a little bit rosy there, sitting in the sun. I wish she got the sun cream on.
Opportunity here, perhaps, for Ebony Salmon. Did score in this fixture last season when Bristol took the lead and eventually lost 6-1.
She's a threat, you know, whenever she's on the pitch for Bristol, she is a threat to the opponent, and obviously they'd like her to be fit enough to play 90 minutes right now, but that's not the case, unfortunately, for her. Seeing Bristol in this mid to high block 4-4-2 organisation, but not getting any pressure on centre backs, which means obviously Millie Bright can hit those cross-field passes, which she's very good at, and obviously set up one of the goals in the first half by doing too.
Chloe Harrison nearly picking out Ebony Salmon, who was well shepherded by Millie Bright.
Get after it, get after it, get after it, come on!
Purfield didn't release, although Chelsea lose it.
Can we step a little bit?
Bryson just gets there ahead of Niamh Charles. There's Jessie Fleming. A young player, 22 years old, made her Canada debut at the age of 15, and has 77 caps. For those Canadians in the USA team, there should be a little caveat saying they play an awful lot of games. Not like us Europeans.
Yeah, they do. They do have a bit more contact time than we generally get with our players, which is great for them. Makes it tougher for us, obviously, as European teams, but it's the way their contractual situation is with leagues, etc. Yeah.
Cuthbert once again is attacked in the box, but Bristol City get it away. Bissell giving chase, and Katrin Berger nearly in the opposite half. And Bright wins it back, and now Kerr, a dart in behind. Next up for Chelsea after the international break is the quarter-finals of the FA Cup against Everton. Should be a good game. And the winners of that one will face either Brighton or Birmingham, in case you missed the FA Cup draw at half-time. Then it's the winners of Arsenal against Spurs up against Leicester or Manchester City in the other semi-final. An alteration for Bristol City. Amy Palmer off and Laura Rafferty coming on, former Chelsea player and another player who has had a huge injury layoff. She's on loan from Brighton, missed the whole of last season after doing her anterior cruciate ligament as well.
Be that point for his edge, you can be a little bit higher in there. That's it. That's it. Oh, block it one side.
Harder. Slips in Sam Kerr, that's a good first touch, and the second one is in the back of the net, and she does have her goal. 9-0.
Chelsea players making the most of the half space, and not quite wide areas and not central areas, half space pockets that are opening up for them, and Harder was the one that was able to pick the ball up and drive into central areas and obviously lay the ball into the path of Sam Kerr for her to get a goal. You know, cutting it back, getting away from the defender with his first touch is great, and then obviously getting that strike in on the ball side of the goalkeeper. Not much chance for Sophie Bagley to make a difference in that instance.
Unbelievable. A 9th goal and another goal scorer. 9 from 9.
I think that's why Durga was making her way up the pitch earlier. She's actually trying to get on the end of it too. Yeah, I don't think Emma Hayes would have coached many games where that stat would have been available to her after 90 minutes.
I've just been told by our match director that if we get a 10th goal, we don't have room on the match graphic. So that'll be interesting to see what they conjure up for us.
So it looked like 0-0 or 1-0, is it? Well, it's not something you'd expect, usually. And from a serious point of view, I'm not really sure where I sit within my thoughts, in a sense of the league and the competition. You can see it in two ways. You know, it's great to have these level of players in one team playing together, lifting the levels of the women's game, but it's also just as disappointing to kind of have the two leagues within one, I guess, at the moment, with the results that are happening.
Well, nearly a 10th. Fired in and gathered by Sophie Bagley.
It does highlight the budgetary differences, I think, between clubs within that top tier right now. And yes, Sophie Ingle, I hope you do have sun cream on, not getting dehydrated before I see you later tonight. Jokes aside, it's nice to have her fit for camp. But I'm sure she would have liked to play, just like any others on that Chelsea bench or the Bristol bench today.
Everton have taken the lead against Spurs. Izzy Christensen with the goal. Yeah, unfortunately, this does further highlight the gulf in the league. And these scorelines are probably going to get a little bit more common.
Look, it's not just about the playing ability, you know, you're not just comparing players on the pitch right now, or, you know, with one group better than the other. It's not just about that for me, it's about the support system that the clubs can provide, whether that's medical, whatever it is, you know, support system. There's so many things that come into that right now. Obviously salaries are part of it. And there is a massive gulf between those at the bottom of the league and those at the, potentially those at the bottom of the league and those at the top come the end of the season.
Here's Harder. Straight to Bagley. It also means that it's those head-to-heads, isn't it, that are so important between the top 3 or 4. And actually, even though Chelsea have won this one and in style, dropping points against Manchester United. It's obviously only the first game of the season, but could prove a bit costly, maybe.
I think in the next, you know, let another 2-3 rounds of the games go, and it'll be really interesting to see what the table looks like then. Are we settling into kind of another regime where you've got a top 2 or 3 fighting for it, and the rest are kind of the rest of the best fighting for those middle table spots, or is anybody going to be able to push into that top 2 or 3 this season?
It's a good run that's kept in. Here's Cuthbert. The referee spotted something that she didn't like.
I'm surprised the Bristol players aren't asking the referee, is time up right now to get off this pitch.
Maybe just a touch of cramp. Tough afternoon.
Emma Hayes will be very pleased, I'd imagine, with the majority of things that have happened today. Some great goals scored, some good build-up play. Haven't been challenged defensively much, so probably not much to say with regards to that for her with the team. But great opportunity to give newer players into the squad an opportunity to step on the pitch and start feeling part of the team by getting competitive minutes.
An afternoon that Sophie Baggerly won't forget.
It could be a tough season for her.
And it should have been 10, and it's Drew Spence who has rolled that one wide. Bristol City trying to play the way out from the back, nearly conceding double figures. Late challenge on Spence. Time to ask Jane Ludlow, our Barclays FA WSL Player of the Match. Lot to choose from.
Well, obviously it's going to be a player in blue today, and she's actually been taken off the pitch right now, but she's had a great contest, and that's G. I think she's been superb in possession of the ball, picking out passes and breaking lines. She's been absolutely fantastic.
Eriksson with the cross as Chelsea try to come again and get that 10th goal.
What I would say though is, well, there's a few that could come close to that award as well, and Erin Cuthbert's definitely one of those, because she's been just as lively in the midfield area. But thinking back to some of the situations that have created goals, you know, G's been at the heart of that all the way through the game.
Harder keeps it going. Here's Eriksson, Spence, Cuthbert fires it forward. Brave block by Lagazo. I'm afraid Bryson is down now. We're trying to pick out Ji So-yeon. Ah, there she is. Stand up if you are the Barclays Player of the Match. Terrific performance.
And she's been an outstanding performer for the club for many years now. I think we forget how long she's been a part of the club, and there's been a couple of seasons where she probably hasn't been spoken about as much, but I think, you know, if you break down an attacking midfielder's game, she's going to highlight a lot of those qualities you'd like to have in players in your team.
And it's over. 9-0 win for Chelsea. And 9 different goal scorers for Chelsea. Quite the first match back at Kingsmeadow for Emma Hayes' side. Well, they clearly saw what Arsenal produced yesterday, and they fancied some of that as well. Arsenal winning, hitting West Ham United for 9, and Chelsea have matched it today.